All right, here we go again. Buckle up, rough roads ahead. Well, I know Donald Trump likes to like lowball, tariffs, but I don't know if that's it or not. Well, if Europe decides to fight, that war's not going to end anytime soon, unless they all kill each other with nukes. Right. I knew that they had already made deals, probably like secure communications. Right. Then they came out public with it. Because Zelensky wouldn't be taking the position he'd be taking unless somebody assured him. Right. Well, again, I always tell people that the answer is usually before the tragedy. Right. I generated a lot of energy there trying to make that well. But apparently, my brother already has a leg that's screwed up, so I got no idea. He just finally was told that he's got a slip disc. Right. So I possibly everything that's wrong with his back may not only be the fracture. He might actually need surgery, but he hasn't gone to like massage or anything yet, and it's because the fracture exists. So again, that's the way it tends to work, and it's whatever. I'm trying to focus away from that and stay positive. Like at least I'll be around people. Right. Like when my back adjusts now, it's kind of like has inflammation. I think it adjusted like this before, but there was no inflammation. And then I left my legs to be kind of cramped. But I think my legs and feet still need some more massaging to bring them around. I get in my back, I haven't had all that much, and I haven't had any. But I'm opting for the steroid treatment, so I think it's probably best to wait. I might do some, but again, I'm going to wait for it to get warm before I do anything. I don't think this cold weather is conducive to what I'm trying to do. So we have another 4 24-hour blocks before it warms up, and it usually takes a couple days. But once the warm weather's here a couple days, then like the buildings and the ground start warming up. Yeah, I try. The spirits were saying there's something that they're missing as far that they could try as far as procedures. I don't know if they work or not. So I just kind of put that out there to the Vatican, and then I found some procedures that work. That might work. But the spirits, pushed me further to Google it. Yeah, I was always on HIV. I was always wondering if there's something we can do to boost natural immunity before a vaccine, or before, yeah, or not necessarily a vaccine, but some sort of multi-phased process which puts the HIV out of the body or in regression. So again, the one for the pneumonia was something that boosts the natural immunity. They were saying using that by itself, but again, the idea of using it in conjunction with the antibiotic process or whatever else they're using. It's going to be cold today. Ugh. Wish I had a bathtub. It's just such an inconvenience to fire up that vinyl tub. Because I probably would have already took a bath this morning. With the arnica seems to help. Again, I'm not taking any ibuprofen or anything. But the neck is definitely less stiff. Right. That. Initially, that was the big problem. It just kind of stiffened up. I do have a little bit of arthritis in there, so just wasn't ready for this winter. I don't know what happened to make it different, but I think I didn't move around as much. Right? Again, I did notice my moving around was decreasing. I wasn't going to like Menards as much. I wasn't moving on my projects as much. I don't know if one feeds the other. I'm gonna go outside with my shorts on and my t-shirt to see what it's like out here. Woo, chilly. I'm still only measuring 3 inches of snow growth. Oh, what happened here? Still there, still there, still there. I'm still only measuring 3 inches of snow depth. Actually, let me stay in here and warm up a second before I go back out there. Because I'm going to walk further down the trail. Yeah, it's like at the most 3 inches. But again, it'll be going. So they were going to do the pest control again yesterday. Didn't get anywhere. But it was like horrible. And the day I figured I had COVID, I did a groin pull. At least that thing healed. Because I was attempting to get the snow off my vehicle. But since then, I've actually before that, I think I started doing. I get my legs released. So there's cramps in my legs that made my legs like kind of peggy, but made it stronger to walk. Right. Now I just wish because I was so much younger. I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't see it. Right. But I was so much younger last time, 4 years earlier. Would have been better to probably go get the surgery. I mean, only if there was catastrophic loss, and that generally doesn't happen in those places. What happened in whatever that was that I saw in Amarillo was an anomaly. Right. Well, because it wasn't quality of life. I'll just say the last 4 years. I'll just tell you that. And it allowed them to manipulate me. So I guess the administration is just waiting for some additional funding. And again, don't solely focus. Again, I understand that they're pushing your buttons in the media, but at least certain media. Don't let that steer you in the way you view your successes, or you get so frustrated you move in a direction that's not positive. I perceive at a certain point there'll be more routine arrests. But again, you have to be careful. Yeah, we're going to shrink pretty big here, because I think you're going to get rid of the immigrant labor to a certain degree, which is going to shrink our economy a certain amount, could cause inflation. And then you're going to replace them with American workers, or at the same time, right? Well, because American workers are going to be unemployed. Yeah, trying to get in here, put them out. Yeah, but the idea is if you push buttons in Europe and the war continues and it all of a sudden involves the rest of Europe, it's the complete opposite of what you said you would do. And that's going to have repercussions. There you go, Larry. Yeah, the market might retract from that. What are you going to do? Keep Medicaid up? Ban here, ban. I guess I said some things. Because again, you don't know what Doge is going to cost us until you go down the road a few years. There's things in government that are designed to stave off additional cost. Like there's no process that Doge is using that calculates possible loss in the future based upon cutting a program or greater loss. Because the reason we do it is that we save money. So the Social Security and Medicaid and all that, even causing the economy to contract has a cost. Tax revenue and other things. So I think this was brought up before. You might lose so much, a certain amount of tax revenue that throws the whole thing off, the whole calculation off, like chasing your tail type of thing. GDP shrinks, tax revenue shrinks, economy shrinks. So once it gets warm, hopefully I get better and I can start taking control of this apartment better. Already called some people about maybe taking some of the furniture out here. Push back on that. Well, it'd just be easier for me to be able to, put things in a neater order. Because I was doing my project, I got into a thing where I have like a miter saw and stand in here and a drill and table in here. And that was what it was. But it's just too much in here right now. Right now, I'm focusing keeping this place warm for the next few days. I guess it's weird because it got cold in here. Like I can tell, like the walls are still cold because it's warm and my temperature's up, but it's not. It's not warm. Right. So maybe by the evening, maybe that's what it is. By the evening, the apartment walls and everything heat up, right? And then I feel better. I actually feel better than when I woke up. Praise God for that. Well, if it's time for the Pope, this is what I want people to focus on because I always wanted somebody like the Pope right now so that people can see it. Again, we're all human. Dying is not the best thing in our mind. Right? But the Pope's trying to lead the way into graciously dying, even if he isn't. It's weird because our lives are kind of paralleling, and I've seen this before. And something's crying right now. I don't know what that was. Well, because my life, I'm having to adjust my life now. The Pope has to adjust his life. Well, it's just something where God says, "Look, don't worry about the." It's like how God does that. Don't worry about the afterlife. And again, many of you don't like the Pope, but condemning the sinner was never the ultimate intention of Rabbi Yeshua ben David. Condemning the wealthy sinner was more of it. Because the wealthy sinner was causing the less capable people, including other wealthy people, to not be able to not sin, not be able to see God, not be able to connect into a religious society. And it's still going on today. Well, we need to reform Social Security, similarly to what I was saying. We need to get. The problem is, initially, to get money into the fund, what if they borrow on it? I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Well, we don't. Well, we need money in the fund, so we should give people options and see if they'll buy into it, like a 401k. And maybe we can run some figures past an AI as to how many people would roll. That's possible. Well, what if seeing the economy is going to go shitty now? Well, the idea is, what about just investing what we take in every day? Probably great idea. That's what it should have been to begin with. Once we realized investing. I agree, Larry. So Social Security should include investing. So again, I tried to make the delineation between finding something that probably shouldn't be, and then another thing, finding actual criminal activity. And see, that's hurting the administration's credibility. In the private sector, they generally, they run loose, and there's less repercussions. Well, if people get to the point that they don't believe you, then they're all lost. And then the markets, they'll tend to pull out of the markets. I don't know what Vladimir Putin's bottom line is. I don't know what Donald Trump's bottom line is. Actually. So I can't tell you what that is. Right? There's a lot of hard-nosed statements going on from both sides. And that's how this is going to go, I guess. Right. Stuck in this frozen weather for now. Yeah, I had problems with that money being sent like that to Ukraine. Well, that's why I told, well, Zelensky needs to move countries. He needs to go somewhere else because, that place is going to fall. But I didn't know we were going to spend all that money. Right? Still, eventually it would probably. But again, if Europe intervenes, then it's a game changer. Again, you have to remember, both in Russia and Ukraine, there's people that are seriously disabled from the war. Right? And once the war is over, you'll probably see an uptick in crime from people that aren't dealing with what had happened in their mind and all that. Right? And that have that, they come back and commit crimes. It's happening here. We have people in government here committing crimes all day long because they're warped and whacked from the wars. I looked at houses that I was looking at in Casa Grande, and they were like 180,000, and they're like 3 something now, I think. Arizona. That's probably, something was trying to get me into a place that was probably good for aging. Right? Back when I was still in Santa Fe, I was trying to get out of there, and I just couldn't. Right? Like, you'll see people with a cane out there. A lot of times it's they have what I have, but they don't have insurance to pay for the surgery. Right? They just take a pill, happy pill, and walk with a cane. There's no reason that I didn't try to go. And they said that, what I'm hearing inside is that surgeon's a good surgeon, actually a great surgeon. So, like, my brother offers up coming out here to help me for a short period of time, and he can't even do anything right now, really. Right. But now his wife and him are moving into that zone where they're going to need surgery, and I'm like, what? Really? Because he recommended against it. But I know how that works. Well, what's happening is the Pope was cursed, and again, we all age. I said years ago, what happens is when we die, the curses take over. We can't fight the curses any longer. We have nothing left. That's what happens when you die. Otherwise, you might live longer. And then, at a certain degree, then you would never be born on this planet. Right? Where you would die. Not all creation will come to this planet. I just tried to calculate, and God said, well, there's no time and space. I could create another 500 million creation and have it move through time and space, and they would have been here since the beginning. Right. No, Hashem likes the humanoid form idea. Right. Although creation is both form and formless. There's a lot of metaphysical. Again, metaphysical doesn't have to be somebody listening to me right now. It could just be spells launched out into the world. They're doing well. I just at a certain point, I'd like to see us. Again, there's a mess in DHS with those programs, so I don't know. Apparently, somebody was defrauding the green card program for victims of crime and assistance with helping with crime. Right. So they would need to fix that. But I guess, if you're moving the people out that would normally be part of narcotics distribution in that network, then we're somewhere. Right. We're still reducing it. Wow, it's cold out there, I'll tell you that. A little bit more wind today. Yesterday during the snow, it wasn't so windy. I could feel it coming off the walls. I probably shouldn't have let the apartment get so cool at night. Kind of sleep better, but when I wake up, there's issue. The guy that actually is going to do the epidural, he's confident, but I guess he has to be, or he couldn't recommend it and charge the insurance company for it. Now, if I had a guy like that, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, he'd explained everything to me. Right? And I could understand how to treat it. Thank you, Larry. Thanks, Larry. I mean, there's no comparison as far as what's going on the border now compared to what it did. And again, a lot of it was the idea that there was hope on the other side of the border. And again, there is none, really. I mean, it's a crapshoot for these immigrants. Right. And again, when they're not gainfully employed, they're in crime. And I told you that was going to happen. So if you don't get them to work, you're going to have crime. Because, again, people get in trouble. That's why I keep myself busy. So I don't become a criminal. So Mr. Moran, it's funny because, now I'm in their system a little bit. He has issues with, I was always there probably in spirit. He has issues with how this all might affect the farmers here. Again, the idea that I brought up before the cuts, before the administration took, like here's what's happening. I say, I'm going to show psychology here. I say cuts. When they cursed me, I would freak out because I would see something like a bad picture of cuts in my mind's eye. Now I just dispel it. So again, they did something to me that they're not able to do now. Like they put fear and panic in it. The fear and panic is minimizing. But like I told you, it's going to cost us because you're cutting some of the USAID money. Now you may reinstate it, but again, it's not an easy thing. You're going to cut, but if you go, I have to cut $2 trillion by next week, it doesn't work because you have to think through the cuts. Because again, you're trying to cut $2 trillion, But all of a sudden the debt goes up because you're cutting tax base. Look at Larry. Great, sir. And, you know, farmers go belly up. And they burn Trump in effigy. Right. Thank you, Larry. Well, we need to balance the budget, but again, the idea is to bring the budget into subjection and not obsess over the dollar figure, because it's not a dollar figure. It's where we can cut, we cut. Where we can't cut, we don't cut. And then, you know, you see where you are. Because if you're chasing after that dollar figure, you might cut where you're not supposed to cut. Again, the issue is that Elon Musk cut people out of government that were investigating him. Well, these things are going to end up in court cases. So that's a mess. Rick, sir. No, the thing is, when I was in Amarillo, I was like 20 pounds lighter, 25 pounds lighter, 4 years younger. It would have been better to move from there to the surgery. Right. I'm struggling to reduce my weight now. Again, that's why I'm walking here. I'm walking around my apartment while I broadcast. I'll do it outside maybe when it's warm. Now, part of what I did is, like I said, I undid that lower cramp that I had of muscle, and I probably should have never left it. It's still there a little bit, but it's mostly released. But that causes the leg to get weaker. So again, it was kind of a false heel, and I shouldn't have allowed it. I should have been able to see forward enough to say, get it done now. I mean, my life was set up for it. I had the trailer. I had the van. Have no idea why I do know. They put that in your mind. I have no idea why I did it. It's them. They rolled it down. They didn't want it, and it went away. They're stalkers, man. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.